So with this brief intro, I will
This
welcome
call
and
is now
request
being
sir to
recorded.
take over the session. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I'm going to present today something about 3D printing and cyber physical systems. How do we integrate 3D printing with the cyber physical systems, and what's the role of Internet of Things in all this? So the work that I'm presenting over here is sort of a framework and the implementation of framework for IoT enabled additive manufacturing platform for rapid product development. So rapid product development is some word which is very catchy over here. So let's try to see what we are talking about. All of you know that additive manufacturing at times is also known as 3D printing. Why applications are so much varied and accepted? Mostly you can see that automobile manufacturers, aerospace manufacturers, medicine will see more applications as well in the coming discussion. But then why is it so accepted nowadays? See, the product life cycle of the products which we see in our day-to-day life nowadays is very volatile. I mean, if you make a product, if you plan to launch a product after 6 months, sooner or later your competitor may catch up. He may even come up with the same idea even earlier than you. So you need to reduce your time to the market. In order to reduce time to the market, you need rapid product development, and which is enabled by 3D printing, where you actually don't have to go for making dies and hit and trial process. You can quickly feed in the design and make the product, get the product prototyped in a day, and then go ahead. Also, it can produce high complexity products. So it says some idea is there, but the idea is somewhat complex. So it gives an apprehension whether we should go for testing the idea or not. So additive manufacturing gives you leverage where you can quickly produce high complexity products and performance also. With the different kind of materials coming in, your performance, you can get varied performance as well. Mass customization can also be done where you are producing what customer wants exactly, and in a large scale also. So you can achieve both economies of scale and customization in additive. So these are some of the main advantages. There are even more than that. Besides that, if we look at economically, it has very low prototyping cost per unit, you can say. Initial investment may be a bit higher, but uh, looking at the period for which you're going to use the machinery, it has per unit low prototyping cost, as well as the time it's going to consume is less. The material consumption is very less and the wastage is very less. So again, it's economic and at the same time environmental friendly also. It provides you low production cost even for low volumes, which generally is not the case if you go for making the product on production line. At the same time, you don't have to keep much inventory because you can produce as and when you require, and it gives you flexibility also. So since you can produce low volume at low production cost, the requirement of the inventory itself is minimized. Some other characteristics which give additive manufacturing an advantage is they are suitable for small batches and geometrically complex products. Now, the topic, how we are going to explore this topic today is that the design can be easily transferred through internet. So, the compatibility of the technology with internet is very high. Using this compatibility as a competitive advantage, there are many companies like Shapeways and Ponoko. They have used 3D printing services in cloud. So let's have a look at these people, what they are doing. So Shapeways, let's have a look at the Shapeways website and what these people are actually doing. So they are providing online 3D printing services. Now it's quite interesting. So if you look at the solutions, the type of solutions that they provide is like additive manufacturing, rapid prototyping, design services. They can even make STL files for you. You can upload your STL file and then go for production. The applications like medical applications, what kind of things they are making in medical applications, you can see that. I'll just show you some case studies are also there where they are making it, while you can see patient specific orthosis and prosthesis where they provide higher durability, optimized design, functional integration. Medical devices like these wearable devices, because they need customization. Size of, for example, in this case, the earpiece, it has got different size. Every ear has got a different size. So you can, with this way, you can produce different require as per requirements. The medical devices, wearable devices. Education training, like you might have seen the skeletons which are lying in the medical um, schools, so you can actually get them made over here while you're not actually working on that real skeleton. Medical models could be made in order to get better understanding. So these are some of the applications in the medicine side. um, Consumer side, what are the applications? So you can see that housewares like lamps and fixtures, shelves and brackets, drawer pulls and hooks, jewelry, eyewear. The kind of flexibility you can see that it's providing. Besides that, what other applications are there? We can see robotics. So now look at the robotics one, where you can see the custom housing and parts, tooling and jigs, replacement parts. So in maintenance, it plays a big role nowadays, rapid prototyping. So robotic modifications like custom housing and parts, tooling and jigs, replacement parts, and then robotic prosthetics, just like human prosthetics, yeah, and many more. Even in you can see aerospace. I'll just yeah, you can see over here spares, high quality prototypes where you can we can get fast turnaround time, and then you can have expert design engineers, which these people provide. So manufacturing engine components and all the different kind of spares, right? Now what these people are doing is like you can get a quote. In order to get a quote, upload a 3D model. They are just saying you that STL file or whatever format you are having, you can upload that and go ahead with it. So we'll be exploring this side of the presentation. Similarly, Ponco also, we can see that these are some competitors, and they're actually global and make your customer parts. And you can see over here hardware, electronics, keyboards, jewelry prices, homeware. So again, the same thing, face plates, PCBs. Yeah. So these are called 3D hubs. These kind of websites, they are called 3D hubs, and they provide a platform where distributed 3D printer owners. Now, what is the meaning of distributed over here? Is that it's not like I'm having a machine and I'm local. I'm only catering to the local market. Rather than being local, I can go global by joining a 3D hub where I'm the printer owner and I can make the product for anyone, right? But there are many complexities which come in this kind of situation, and how Internet of Things and cyber physical systems are helping these 3D hubs to come up with a new business model. That's what we are going to see. So they can post their machine information on it. Like I've got a 3D printer. I'm going to put my information on it that I've got such and such 3D printer with such technology and such capacity. And then customers can access my services online. In this way, users are able to access various distributed additive manufacturing resources via the internet and pay only what they use. Now, you can imagine a situation if you are a manufacturer, uh, but you don't want to own a machine because you use it seldomly. The maintenance which is required and the fixed cost which is associated with keeping a 3D printer at your own premise. It could be costly affair because I am not going to make prototypes every now and then. I am probably going to make that these kind of designs once in a while, and so I may not. It may not be feasible for me to have a machine of my own. So I'll just pay for what I use. I'll just pay for services and not for the complete setup. So this trend is in line with the concept of cloud manufacturing. Now, this cloud manufacturing, IoT, all these things are what constitutes this kind of a project which we are discussing. Now, current workflow of cloud 3D printing services is somewhat like this. There's a user. He's going to upload a CAD file on the cloud. It's going to go to the operator, who's the service provider basically. This service provider will tell me if I'm owning a machine, will give me the parameters, and I'm going to print a part and I can ship it. So current solutions have made progress towards a sophisticated cloud platform for additive manufacturing, but there are still several issues to be tackled. Now it's not that easy. There are some problems like communication between machines and the cloud. So machines and the there are some standards, there are some compatibility issues, there are some protocols which have to be uh, which these protocols have to be met. Now, oversimplified service definition is another thing. Like for example, oversimplified service definition is like I am the customer and I simply upload my CAD file. I would not tell them what do I want. Getting it? Because it's a very technical thing. There are different kind of additive manufacturing technologies available. Now, which one of those technologies suitable for my product, for my application, I probably don't have any idea. So I'm just going to give a vague requirement. I'll just upload a STL file. Now that guy, uh, to whom we want to, with whom I want to manufacture, he's confused. What should I do? How should I make it? What does my customer want? So for that, so this is called oversimplified service definition given by the customer. Now one has to simplify this thing for the the person who's owning the printer. Who's going to do that? This is the responsibility of the service provider, and here he plays a role in simplifying. So we'll see how he plays that role. Then we have limited support for design and additive manufacturing. See, design for manufacturing concept is well known, but still the design for additive manufacturing is very less known. So this thing also needs to be taken care of. So let's see now, architecture of a cloud-based additive manufacturing platform. We call it as a CAMP. So CAMP is an environment that links additive manufacturing outsourcing requirements to distributed additive manufacturing services. So this CAMP is going to simplify the oversimplified demand which distributed AM services are getting. This CAMP is going to simplify that for them, or is going to open up to them that okay, this is what they want. So there are three major stakeholders in this complete system. The first stakeholder is a service provider, the second stakeholder is a service requester, and the third stakeholder is a platform provider. Service providers connect their printers. So I'm the service provider. I'm going to connect my 3D printer with a printing resource to the cloud and upload resource capabilities and know-how. So if I'm connecting my machine with the cloud, I'll have to tell that what are my resources, what is the capacity of the machine, what type of 3D printing technology am I using? Am I using stereolithography? Am I using fused deposition modeling? Okay, and it is enabled by IoT. Various printers will be able to connect together with the cloud, and I am, as a customer, whatever requirement comes will be distributed to one of the machines according to the requirement and the design. In this environment, printing services are defined at the lower level, and along with this, control and monitoring capabilities are there with the customer. He can actually control and monitor the capabilities also. This new definition of additive manufacturing as a service enables customer to customize not only design models but the printing process also. So of course you can customize your design models in the file which you are uploading, but at the same time how this is going to get printed also could be customized, just like you're having a machine of your own. So you can see the cloud platform, how it works. So there's a service requester over here. This is the service requester. Like you can say it's a customer. He's going to contact to the 3D hub. So the 3D hub is having 3D printing hub, and he's having this platform. It is providing services and the description to the service provider, where the service provider is having a 3D printer, he's having a material, he's having sensors, he's having the software, and the data and the know-how are all provided by data, know-how, software are provided by platform provider. So how does the information flow in this whole process? So in this, you can see over here, the requirements are raised by the customer, and it goes to the process planning and the design. In the process planning, that requirement is sought for the process 3D printing process, which will be used, and the material which will be used, what will be the 3D printing parameters, and which will all be based on. And now the another advantage is that with this cloud can store a lot of information. So in a year, let's say he's getting 10,000 designs to print. All these designs and their parameter settings will be stored in the cloud. So it acts as a knowledge base where you can apply machine learning, and or we'll talk about that, and then identify the most optimized way of producing as well, which an individual may not be able to do. Then you have a volume model and a facet model. So volume model is a CAD model, and your facet model is a STL file. Later then sliced counter data is further. What the structure, this platform structure is basically having 4 layers. So let's see these 4 layers. These 4 layers are physical resource layer, virtual resource layer, service layer, and the application layer. So let's have a look at it. We start from the applications. Here, this is the service demander interface and service provider interface. So together, the customer and the cloud provider, or the 3D printing hub provider, they are interacting over here in the application phase. Then it comes to the services which is provided by the 3D hub, or you can say the kind of websites which we have seen. What they are doing is, so they've got several modules like knowledge management module, process planning module, design assistant module, slicer and toolpath generator, monitoring and self-diagnosis, security management. Now what happens in this is model construction and interface and evolve. How does the model evolve is provided. Now what happens is I upload a file. Okay. Now I might not have seen what's going on latest in the field, or I may not be having an idea what should be my parameters with which I should be producing. So that and all could be done by knowledge management module. Now in the process planning module, the process selection and parameter selection is done, which is not done by the service demander or the customer, but uh, the data which is stored on the cloud is extrapolated, is interpolated, it goes through neural networks, and proper process selection could be done, that what should be my sequence and what should be my parameter settings for my additive manufacturing process can be sorted out. Then you have a design assistant module. So in the design assistant module, uh, structural optimization and printability check is done. After that is slicer toolpath generator. So slicer plays a role of uh, generating a toolpath for uh, the printer, and monitoring and self-diagnosis is done for real-time monitoring, defect checking, and self-diagnosis. Then security management, account authority, intellectual properties, all these are, because the STL file which you are providing to 3D print to this 3D printing hub is actually a proprietary of yours. It could be the security of that file could be at stake. If it goes in the hand of your competitor, you could actually lose a lot. So which is not a which is a big apprehension. So security management is a big issue in these services. Then you have virtual resources which are provided. For example, software toolkit, database, knowledge base. These all are virtual resources which both the service provider as well as the service demander is going to use. And cyber twin is something which is created virtually. For example, I'm having a machine, I'm the service provider. A cyber twin for my machine will be created online with the help of Internet of Things, with which a customer can control my machine. So that's what is called as a cyber twin, and it is provided by the cloud service provider. Now let's go ahead and how it is achieved. Let's see that. So product development has three major process planning, design, and printing. So this is the core part of it. Now you see over here, although the diagram looks a bit tedious over here, but it could be understood. Let's see over here that first thing is process planning. Now this process planning is done by the cloud provider, and it configures the process specific to printing. It can be treated as service selection problem as well. In this process, customer may or may not have exact information about their design models, as I've talked about it earlier. So every customer may not be in a position to understand the 3D printing because he may not be having a printer of his own, but he knows how to make a design. So what are the requirements of these design models is done in the process planning. Thus, you can see the support provided by the proposed this model. It starts from a point where customers still are in the early design stage and they don't know how it has to be produced. So first, what they are going to do is system is going to ask for user input on some basic requirements. It could be like desired material and approximate size of the part, what they want, and then system will provide solutions for the user to have an overview of the option space and their performance in terms of important attributes they choose, right? Uh, After that, the information about, we are just still talking about the process planning. So the information about different printing services and their performances could be generated from uh, this knowledge management system, which you can say over here is the query. it's going to ask from the knowledge management system over here that what should be the basic, what should we do, how it has to be produced. These are the basic requirements. What are the preferences and desired range, selected printing strategy. So these all could be done in the process planning. Then comes the design stage, where our traditional where in additive manufacturing, your design for additive manufacturing is very much different than your traditional design for traditional manufacturing process. So it is important that we tell customers to understand what are the new constraints and new possibilities. It can even be produced in a better way. So in that, there is a design library over here. You can see that there is a design library where a customer can use keywords to search for similar designs, just like in group technology, uh, and get some inspiration from those designs. And they can even modify that if they wish to. So there'll be recommendations. After the initial design is generated, a user can check the result of design features with different dimensions. So it can use Bayesian network models. For example, I'll just show you. This is a Bayesian network model. Now what you can see over here is that if your hole diameter is this and certain dimensions of that are having this much accuracy, what will be the total accuracy of diameter? That's what it means over here. Similarly, you can see diameter accuracy is a whole direction, whole diameter, various parameters together, how they're going to affect the diameter accuracy. It could all be done using Bayesian network analysis. So your design library is integrated with your design optimization and simulation. You can even simulate the design, that if okay, if I'm picking this set of rules, these set of design rules, then how my product is going to look like. So after that, user can define constraints for the design model to make sure that the design features can be successfully printed with the expected properties. And if design optimization is required, these constraints could be input to the optimization algorithms also. And then simulation could be conducted to check the performance of design model. Next, we come to printing. So this is the third part of it, printing. Monitor and control, and the product. So in this, once the designing and process planning is done, all the information will be sent to a target printer. So a target printer would be selected. You can also say it's a cyber twin, uh, through the cyber twin in the cloud. Like, okay, so these are the requirements, which printer can do that? So it goes to certain printer. The user now, here priorities could be said. Let's say 4 printers are there, and whichever printer can do that in the lesser price could be chosen. So even you can actually compete for pricing in such setup. So user can monitor the printing process on the internet. He's just, because it takes very long. The printing process it consumes hours for the printing, so it can actually be monitored online with the Internet of Things and the sensors, which could be, we talk about sensors a bit late. So the user can monitor the printing process on the internet. So if the part being printed is not satisfactory, the user can stop the printing also and ask the operator to remove the failed part and restart it with different printing parameters or design. So it's like you are printing on your own. That's why it is called as a cyber twin. In this way, the user is able to quickly have multiple iterations if required, and their product development strategies could be sorted out. Now, as the printing process generally takes hours to finish, as I've just told you, the cloud platform is going to observe it with sensors, could take, and the responsibility of monitoring the process could be taken by the cyber twin. the monitoring data is continuously sent to the database and checked for the predefined rules which may exist in the knowledge model. So if everything is going as is required, or are there any alterations required while the printing is being done, that and all can be handled by the knowledge base. So it gives a double leverage. Customer can also monitor, and there is already an automatic function which is monitoring the process. So in case any failures are identified, the platform can fix the problem if possible and can alarm the user and the operator as well. So I hope this part is clear. Then we go to cyber physical 3D printer. So one of the fundamentals in this type of platform is allowing cyber service providers to directly share their printers on the cloud. Now IoT technologies enable this by connecting printers, sensors, and different types of tools via the internet. Uh, so they call it as a CP3DP, where cyber twin and the physical counterpart they together form C3P CP3DP. So there is a communication protocol which has to be established between the cyber twin and the physical printer. So in order to do this, a communication protocol is required. This communication protocol is going to standardize the definition of the information and the communication which is going to happen. Of late in market, there are two popular protocols, MT Connect and OPC UA. So these popular protocols are standards and for communicating the devices. It's a part of the cyber physical system. The information flow in OPC UA protocol is given over here. So in this server, the information flow of this type of protocol, a server is located locally with the physical system, like a 3D printer. So you got a server associated with the 3D printer, and this is also linked with the data source of the cloud. Now, to ensure the security during the information transmission process, the server can encode whatever the communication is going on between the client and the server. It is all going to be a secure process through XML or binary encoded data. So it's a two-way. Request comes for printing, and then this information, whatever is happening, is through a secure channel. The server can encode the information in XML or the UA binary format. Then a client can also request data from a server. It can then then decode the required data and display it to the customers. Commands can also be sent from the client end to the server through a secure channel. So this is a basic flow, information flow in this model. Now, what they do is the structure of the information model also plays a major role. Now, there'll be nodes will be defined. It's kind of a memory places. These nodes have three classes: object, variable, and method. A node can be of any of the three types. It can be of node class object, node class variable, node class method. So a node class variable is going to represent a value. A node class method of object is going to tell the variables and the methods which are available at that node. And a node belonging to node class method represents method that can be called by the client and return results. So this is a method of encoding, or the information model which will be there, that how information will be stored. Now this figure over here, uh, it's representing 6 group of information for a 3D printer. So the information for a 3D printer could be classified into 6 classes. The first class is, you can see over here, description. So description is including basic information about the printer, the type of technology, uh, is one of the 7 types defined in the standard protocol of ISO DIS 1. There's a standard protocol, ISO protocol, uh, which is defined, which is a technology type like binder jetting, direct energy deposition, material extrusion, material jetting, power bed diffusion, lamination, sheet lamination, or photopolymerization. Then another thing is this is all description. So technology type, I've just given you some names of the technology type. Then you have equipment ID, because the machine is like you have MAC number. Similarly, you'll have equipment ID, and then you have name of the brand and the printing model. This is the description. Then we come to the second part, which will be your component. Now, component includes the key components of the 3D printer. Different printers have different structures, thus different components. So this again needs to be defined. Then we have material. Now it includes basic information about the material used on the printer. Basic, like material type is one of the 4 types. It could be uh, standard metallic, ceramic, polymer, composite. These are the things. Or you can have variable type of feedstock. Uh, and this feedstock object is one of the 6 states of raw material. Like feedstock could be liquid, it could be paste, it could be powder, it could be filament, wire, or a sheet as well. So, and then you have other information like um, you can have diameter of the filament can be added, like if you want to specify that as well. Then printer status, whether certain printer is already working or it is paused, and generally it could be given in terms of boolean values specified, or like true and false. Then printer status also include preparing and printing variables of working object, and the percentage values indicating the amount of printing job. Then you have part, which basically includes the information about the part being printed, or you can say the STL file. Then you have ambience, for example, because the humidity and temperature affects the printing process, so that's why ambience has to be specified over here. Now you can see over here the complete set thing, that a 3D printer is going to have so many different types of information to be shared on the cloud. Now, self-diagnosis is a major part over here, where IoT is going to play a major role. So a 3D printing task often is going to take time, and we need to find out if there's going to be a failure or not. So it's kind of a prognosis that we want to do, so that there should not be any time wastage and unnecessary capital investment. Therefore, if cloud platform is able to analyze the data from the sensors and figure out that if there is an impending problem, it can be dealt with. So this is a workflow of a self-diagnosis module. See why this self-diagnosis module is so important, because first, value addition of the service provider. Secondly, uh, every operator, if let's say a local 3D printer may not have that much technical know-how with itself, so that it can optimize the process. And it may also not be able to do self-diagnosis at times if the expertise is not there. While since cloud is already having so much of information in itself that it can be used for self-diagnosing. So, uh, so if the cloud platform is able to analyze the data, we can do. Now, how this problem classifier will be used, we'll see that. But let's look at the physical twin part. Physical twin is a printer and a monitoring sensors. So information from monitoring sensors is someone asking a question. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So we're talking about this self-diagnosis module. There are three things: physical twin, cloud platform, and the cyber twin. So physical twin is the machine, printer, and the monitoring sensors are planted in the physical twin. Monitoring sensors of what? For diagnosing. So it's going to, the sensors are going to do, going to send the information to the cyber twin, which is there in the cloud. Data analysis is going to happen. If it sees a problem, then it's going to move towards finding out a solution. So either it's going to modify the parameters, the commands to the printer and give it to printer, or else is going to tell it to stop. And the solution is sought from the knowledge base, which is stored in the cloud platform. Now, problem classification. Additive manufacturing process could be grouped into two types. Now, what is this problem classification are we talking about? This problem classification is nothing but in the data analysis, you see over here this problem. Whether this is a problem, how to say yes and no, how to go towards no and how to go towards yes, is that what we are going to see now. So additive manufacturing processes are grouped into two types based on part and print can be visually monitored or not. If it can be visually monitored, good enough. It cannot be visually monitored, we need sensors. So in the material extrusion process, 5 classes of defects are there: detachment, missing material flow, deformed object, surface error, and deviation from the model. These are basically 5 different types of errors which are there. So in general, uh, they could be geometrical failures or surface defects. So we can use artificial neural networks to identify. So you can see over here, the machine learning is also coming into play. So vision-based surface defect detection. So neural networks, we talk about the vision-based, where we are going to actually look and find out. So here we are going to use neural networks. They imitate the working of the human brain or the animal brain. Here, how they contain thousands of interconnected nodes to process information in parallel. Unlike a computer where there's only one processor, neural networks have multiple processors, so it's a parallel computing which happens. So these systems learn from the examples, and tasks, visual tasks such as pattern recognition could be easily done with neural networks. So we could use neural networks over here, using sensors. We classify the data. For example, surface finish. We have a sensor for surface finish, whether while the 3D printing process is going on with the given parameters, am I getting a correct surface finish or not? So neural networks could be used for this purpose. So you can see over here, this is a basic concept of the neural networks. You might already know about it, and if you don't know, let me just give you a brief about it. You can see over here, these are the input nodes. Input nodes are basically uh, the as is condition. For example, I am having a 3D printed part, so the surface finish is an input over here. Also, output is something what I want. Like I need to specify some target over here. What do I want in output? How should be my surface finish? So if if my parameters, printing parameters are x1, x2, and like this, and they take certain value, what is the output that I'm getting, and how much this output is deviated from uh, my requirement? And in between is the activation function, which converts your inputs to outputs. It's just like function. So this is the basic concept of the neural network, and what is the intention over here is to get the required output as much as possible for certain combination of the input parameters. So to verify the usefulness of neural networks for surface defect detection, neural network models could be developed. Like over here, you can see this image is indicating is what I want in my 3D printed object. So this will be my desired output. While this surface finish I'm getting with certain combination of the parameters. So whether this is acceptable or not, whether this combination of parameters is acceptable or not, I'll get to know soon. So the step 2 is data pre-processing. Now what generally happens is you're going to feed a lot of images in the neural network. So images could be of different pixel size. So we need to standardize the pixel size, and that's, let's say, 100 by 100 pixels, smaller pictures, and are fed into it. So we want to make the neural network learn that you can get such surface finishes, they are acceptable or not. So this is a supervised learning that we have to do. So now here color is not important, but uh, so RGB images are converted to grayscale images, and so that bandwidth could be reduced. If you upload a colored picture, if or even in a cloud you are using colored pictures, the bandwidth required to process that would be higher, because all the information has to be transferred online. Because the printing is going on somewhere else, and the processing is happening at the cloud, and this data again has to be transmitted to the user. So you have to also consider reducing the bandwidth requirement, also the computation power. So after this, what initial 3000 images are generated as a training data, which is a lot. Like a person actually has to sit and look at these 3000 images and tell whether each image is acceptable or not. So you create a training data now, and then after that you do validation. Of course, we need some more data for that. Generally 20% of that could be 600 images could be used for training purpose. A normalization and standardization process is undertaken to increase the convergence speed. So convergence speed is basically the speed at which the neural network responds to the inputs and reaches to the optimal value. So in step 3, neural network model construction is shown, where you can see images of 100 by 100 are the inputs, and there are hidden layers with 4000 nodes, and ReLU function is used as the activation function over here. There are many different types of functions. So generally ReLU is used in such in image processing. Then you can have multiple hidden layers also, but then your neural networks become slow and loaded. So you may actually, while you're doing neural network, while you're finalizing your neural network, you may actually have to do a lot of hit and trials. But then once it learns, then it is just part of the system. Then you don't have to do that again and again. Yeah. So you have to put two labels on it. It's called, that's why it's a labeled data. Labeled data basically means that you're telling what is the output. So good and bad, these are the output will be in terms of good and bad. If it is bad, then you can see over here it goes to this problem over here. If it is bad, then means there's a problem. Yes, there's a problem, and it goes towards improving the surface finish. If there is no problem, if it is no, if it is yes, then it goes ahead. So we go ahead now. So then step 4 is the training, where images are packed into batches. Like now you are finalizing your neural network, so you have to train it and get certain accuracy. So there are batches, and 15 images are there in the each batch, and it is sent for training. The learning rate which we have to specify for a neural network is given over here, and after 700 iterations the training stopped. It's stopping of the training is the convergence, and the trends in loss and accuracy of the model are presented over here. So we can see that with the number of steps nearing 700, your actual values with the light orange line and the training data values, they are getting closer and closer over here, so you achieve convergence. Similarly, in your accuracy also, the light orange line is indicating the actual values in the training process, and the solid lines with darker color is indicating smooth results to represent more general. So in this neural network, your weights are decided. Now, if these are the inputs, your weights to the neural network layers are frozen. And when these two curves meet over here, we get that accuracy and the loss function. Here we have reduced the loss and accuracy is increased. And the step 5, the model needed to be tested to prove its accuracy. So extra 600 images that were not trained previously are fed into the model for evaluation purpose. So this is the TensorFlow code for in Python, which is given over here. We get anything above 0.75 is considered to be a good precision. So you got 81.2 as the precision over here. Okay, so this was working. Now with this, what it will help is that when I upload a file and I'll tell to print it, when the printing starts, automatically my system is going to tell whether the printing is happening good or not. If it is not happening good, it will automatically seek the solutions in the knowledge base and will let me know that now the process is modified and we are going ahead. The next thing is how does this system work? So prototype system is developed to illustrate the functionalities of the proposed cloud platform framework. Material extrusion process is used to develop the prototype platform. Other processes can be involved in the similar manner. So The demonstration is first we set up a local printer, local 3D printer. So this is what we see over here is a local 3D printer. In this, two extra sensors are installed. One in form of a camera to capture the printing process information, and load sensor to track the remaining weight in the filament. Uh, and the information model is developed in XML. And the protocol which is used is OPC UA server protocol, and Raspberry Pi is used is coded using free OPC UA library, which is where in Arduino you can do that. So you can see over here in this picture that uh, process planning in the functionality. If we look at this thing over here, in the process planning, firstly the 3D printers is connected to the cloud and are listed for the customers to explore. So this particular 3D printer is shown on the cloud. They can check the status of printer and directly choose one if they know which one they want to use. If not, they can define the attributes they care about, and the platform will define the series of optimal options with different trade-offs. So it is going to interact with the customer. Then the performance of the options which you show to the customers will be displayed in the interactive option navigation interface, uh, which will be provided. It's kind of on the website which is going to do that. Then if they articulate their preferences on these attributes, the system will calculate a score for each option and rank them. So let's say the system gives 10 options, and you tell what you want. Then the system is going to rank it. And then we come to design, where users will explore the feature library uh, to get inspired and modify the problem if they want. Then subsequently check the design rules represented in Bayesian networks. After the design model is generated, they can simulate the printing process, just like what we have discussed earlier. And then subsequently printing can be done. User can access the web interface of the targeted printer. There are many different type of softwares. You can have, like you have Octoprint, which can be used as a web client for the printers. This platform will analyze the image acquired from printing scene, and like you can also see the images of the part being printed, and it will tell whether the part is being printed is good or not. So you can see the use of Internet of Things over here. The sensors are there implanted in the 3D printer. Then this Raspberry Pi is a processor which is going to process even the neural network could be encoded in this Raspberry Pi, and then it's going to interact with the cloud through Wi-Fi. It has the capability of Wi-Fi, and then it goes to the customer. So you can see over here the functionality that I was talking about. Here initially the resource lists are like, these are the printers which are available. Option navigation, where it gives you several options of producing. The ranking, that which option is giving the best optimized printing process, which printer is giving that. And then subsequently there is a feature library also, where you can think of modifying your design if required, and with the given option ranking with certain option, what according to the Bayesian networks, how much accuracy can I expect in the product which I'm producing. The web interface will give me the picture of the part being produced. Before that, I can also see the simulation of it, and the part status is coming over here in the printing stage. So in the conclusion, um, we can see that how information communication technology, artificial intelligence as neural network being part of it, and cyber physical systems, the IoT, are used in the IoT environment to make the cloud platforms smarter and more efficient for customers in rapid product development process. The proposed platform, this what you see, is able to provide customers with useful information, which is based on information they have, instead of asking them to provide more detail, which can be actually irritating for a customer. So um, if you are a customer, you would rather like to have options rather than telling what you want, because you generally don't know what you want. Uh, so 3D printers in the IoT environment can directly receive tasks from the cloud, and the knowledge model is used to define the capabilities, becomes the mind of the complete process. It gives the options, different parameter configurations to help customers in finding out the best services. Then a new dimension of flexibility on machine level is introduced to allow customers to use the printers with more complex requirements. Then the information model is developed for 3D printers in this based on standard OPCUA protocol. It describes a 3D printer. The elements are then subsequently cataloged into 6 groups. It is a general model and can be extended to different printers according to their own characteristics. Now, based on this, CyberTwin is developed in the cloud, which helps in remotely controlling the process of 3D printing via internet and self-diagnosis. It also allows self-diagnosis of 3D printers. There can be more sensors. It's just a small. The 2 sensors. If you want a detailed um, picture of the process, you can have even more sensors with the Raspberry Pi. A neural network is proposed for vision-based surface defect detection, and initial results show that it is a good technique. Here, the neural network can be further optimized for improving the performance of the whole platform. So this was what we have discussed about IoT enabled additive manufacturing platform for rapid product development. So I would suggest you go through these websites, and you'll get to know where people are moving. Right now, not much competition is there in this area, and people can take up it could be a startup also. And actually, you need only to provide cloud services and some good people with good data analytics knowledge, and machine learning. You can build up these great things. So that's it from my side. So if you have anything to discuss, you can.
Dear participants, if you have questions, so ask directly to sir. Okay. I think, sir, there is no questions.
Okay. Thanks, Chitresh, for calling me for the lecture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Thanks to you, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge on IoT, which is linked with 3D printing or 4D printing. This is new for us. I
Uh,
think,
4D printing also could be associated with it easily. Um,
yes,
so in 4D printing, basically you are having layers and you are using different materials which can give a different shape with the
yes,
reaction, with the application of certain liquids or anything like that. So it's again a physical process. So as long
yes,
as there is a 3D printer or a 4D printer, the rapid product development, which I've just talked about, or rapid product design, it could all be achieved with IoT, irrespective of what technology is there at the printing end.
yes. Thanks for participations. Thank you, sir. Okay, we will meet on tomorrow at 11 a.m. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a
Okay,
lot.
thank you, Chitresh. Okay.